Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. To bring in part 12 of What If the Reds and Blues were part of Overwatch. Link down in the description of the fanfiction of this, What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this isn't a scam. Chapter 25, Going to Chorus. On approach to the island. The dropship felt crowded as gathered around each other trying to come up with their own attack strategies against the threat to come. Countering tactics, positioning, even the drawbacks to their enemies, their weaponry and skills. The only one not too focused on that would be Church as he kept trying to get Iota out of his shell. Tracer, along with Tucker in the co-pilot seat kept her mind occupied with music on his headphones while she flew the plane to its destination. The island was said to be protected by a cloaking field that wouldn't appear on scans and would have its defenses ready to shoot them down if need be. Making Tracer a little on edge as she needed to see where exactly on screen they would pop up. So about Chorus, what's it like? Tracer asked. Tucker had paused the current song to answer, it's been a while, when we were there it used to be a constant state of war. Everyone always carries a gun, had armor on, the works. But the place had its beauties to it. Tucker retold the tales of Chorus, from the crash site they once lived in, that was once another blood gulch to them. To the cavernous underground HQ the people used when Null Sector still had control over Omnix. To the outpost that Null Sector used that were on the northern, colder parts of the island. Finally, the newly built city of Harmonia, that was still being remade after Hargrove and his forces were defeated. Then there were the people themselves that made Chorus, what it was today. The Omnics who believed in peace after the war and the humans with them were once the Republic resistance. While a group of humans still had many reservations and fears after the war, they were called the New Federation. The two sides seemed to always find a new invention or tech that found a way to outdo the other side every time. Only when Hargrove showed his hand and his mercenaries were tricked into revealing their intentions, did the two sides set aside their differences. There was General Donald Doyle, actor who was thrusted into the role of leadership after several other generals had fallen in the line of duty. Then there was General Vanessa Kimball, or President Kimball now, a fighter and friend. She was courageous and compassionate to the very last bit. Both on opposite sides of the war, soon they found themselves fighting the common enemy. Tucker did not fail to mention the lieutenants they had under their command. Smith, Jenkins, Palomo, and Bitters, along with a few other memorable soldiers, of course. He would tell them the stories of how they defeated the meta, and they practically idolized the Reds and Blues. A little too much for comfort. As they had their conversation, alarms began blaring throughout the dropship. Everyone rushed to their seats while Tracer was getting ready to perform evasive maneuvers. Tucker was not fazed, however, as he leaned into the microphone on his headset and began speaking. Tucker to Chorus. Repeat. Tucker to Chorus. Do not shoot at us. Please. Tucker calmly spoke into the microphone. For a moment, the alarms died down and then started back up again as the ship rocked due to a massive flak explosion in the air. With more urgency in his voice, Tucker practically yelled, "Stop! Stop! Do not shoot us! Captain Tucker, apologies," someone began firing. The voice on the other end explained, looking to the side. Tucker caught his breath and thought hard who might accidentally fire. That wasn't Caboose, it was fucking Palomo, wasn't it? No. Palomo's guilty voice replied after a few seconds. Fucking Palomo. Tucker sighed as everyone made their way to the window. Everyone, welcome to Chorus. Just looking outside, once they passed the cloaking field that hit them very well from scans, even visuals, they passed some clouds and witnessed the beauty of Chorus. What once was a war zone was now a practical utopia. Buildings in the center were the city of Harmonia, newly rebuilt after Doyle's sacrifice. To the east are farmlands, fields of wheat and grain and all types of trees for different fruits and whatever other vegetables they may have. To the east were docks and ports where they'd be landing of course, but also ships for fishing and a plant for fresh water. To the south was a little bit of a desert area where that was once the crash site to the Reds and Blues. And to the north were the snowy mountains. So much for one small island and the perfect paradise for Omix and humans to get along. Once they landed, there were soldiers lined up, standing at attention, in 2 rows to greet them once they exited. The Reds and Blues had a sort of cocky walk as they made their way past every soldier with a smile. There at the end, waiting for him, was President Kimball, dressed in a white suit with tassels and stars along the shoulders, wearing a military officer's cap still. "President Kimball, always good to see you," Tucker greeted. Kimball let her shoulder down and put her arms up. "You have all saved us on several occasions. You can just call me Vanessa." "Ahem, so, this is Madam President General Kimball we have heard so much about." Winston announced their presence coming over. Kimball took a quick glance at the giant armored gorilla next to them. "And you must be Winston. I've heard some good things about you all. We would normally love to chat and introduce ourselves, but we've got a bit of a situation on our hands." Tracer started explaining. Kimball nodded, about Talon and how Malcolm Hargrove joined them. "I figured as much when Church called me earlier. Also Dr. Gray kinda filled me in. But she doesn't have as much knowledge as you all. So, how about you explain it to me?" Minutes later in Kimball's office. They had explained everything. From Overwatch recruiting each and every one of them, to the missions they have been on. Even how Church was beginning to regain control over the abilities of the AI. It was a bit much for Kimball to follow, but she was able to piece the reason they would need the entire island of Chorus to work together again. The current members in the room were Kimball, Tracer, Winston, Church, Tucker, Agent Washington, and Agent Carolina. Locus was told to stick to the shadows, seeing as how he's responsible for a lot of pain and suffering. Everyone else was scattered throughout the island observing the wonders it had to offer. Kimball took a sip from her president's coffee mug before speaking. "You all know this island has seen its fair share of war. How we had to fight just before Hargrove came. And you're asking us to be prepared to fight again. I know it's a big order, but he would have came regardless. We both know that," Washington said. Carolina stepped up to join in. "We will try to keep the fighting focused on us, but any help you can would be very appreciated. Hargrove attempted to take from us. He was going to wipe out this entire island just to satisfy his pockets." Kimball pulled a shiny pistol from her desk. "What makes you think we don't want to put that bastard in the ground, permanently?" "So, you'll help us?" Tracer asked. Kimball pushed a button on her desk and then called a name, "Santa." "Santa," Winston repeated. "Santa." Everyone who knew the AI sighed. From her desk popped a holographic red figure, almost alien in appearance, clad in armor. When he spoke, his voice was deep and commanding of the room's attention. "Greetings." "What? Who? What is this?" Tracer wondered. Church smiled. "Isn't it obvious? He's an AI. Around the time Anubis went rogue and took over all the Omnics on the planet, there were other ice besides Aurora that stayed hidden. Santa was just an observer, watching everything from the sideline. In the end, he helped us take down Hargrove. It is true. I helped in several ways that have altered the course of this island's fate. And I believe I am needed again. Is that correct, Kimball?" Santa, the artificial intelligence asked. Tracer still had one question. "Okay, but Santa." Caboose named him. Church admitted. "Makes sense. Santa, I want you to begin preparations for a full-on invasion. Let the people know we may need fighters and prepare some shelters for those who do not wish to fight. Raise defense systems. Evacuate the city. And let's get these guys suited up," Kimball stated as she walked with them towards the armory. There was some old gear they had left behind years ago, nothing too fancy, but to them, it was priceless. Elsewhere on the island, after being given their own gear, the rest of the Reds and Blues, along with Overwatch, went over to the armory to change. Their old armor was good, but they felt the terrible need to upgrade it with a few modern aspects and their personal touch. All while the Overwatch members polished and washed off their gear for later use. The armory felt more like a locker room with how well everyone was getting along, minus the lack of clothing, of course, as they all had a spare change. There was idle chit-chat among the group, just like back in the old days of Gulch, or back before a mission started. This was what they called the calm before the storm. Simmons, being the socially awkward nerd he was, attempted conversation with another social outcast. "So, Baptiste, how you doing, man?" "Simmons, are you attempting to communicate with me because we have similar weapon types?" Baptiste raised an eyebrow in question. "You do not need to try so hard. We are all friends here." "Thanks, man. I appreciate it." Simmons sniffed as all those depressing years of having little to no friends all throughout high school and bits of college. While Simmons was busy having his first friend outside the Reds and Blues, Griff was having a quick cold one before anything happened. He always drank beer, it helped keep his nerves cool and allowed him to stay focused on what needed to be done. It also helped numb his body so that he could fight off whatever pain or damage his body would endure, being Sarge's shield. Mercy hadn't liked seeing him drink one bit. "You really shouldn't be drinking so much." "Sorry Angela, but I need to drink in combat to fight the pain," Griff replied. "But we aren't in combat." Griff simply took a long slurp from his drink. Church and Tucker were getting changed right next to each other, with Caboose just behind them, fitting the exosuit with the bare minimal armor. Everything they've been through, Blood Gulch, the meta, all the freelancers, the mercenaries, the chairman, the island of Chorus, even their time with Overwatch, led up to this. That's when something deep down inside them felt off, like something was going to go wrong. Church stopped changing for a moment to address everyone in the room. "Hey, in case we don't make it back, and this is our last mission, our last fight together, I just want you guys to know I like you all the most of all, out of everyone I've met." "Hey," Tucker looked over to him, "we're all going to make it back. There's no question about that. All of us." "All right, then. Let's suit up. You guys mind waiting outside for us?" Church turned to the Overwatch team as they all waited turn to leave, closing the massive garage door as they left. A few minutes later, "I promised myself I wouldn't play Bring Em Out by T.I. When they had finally finished putting on their gear, the garage doors slowly lifted. The bright light from inside casted their shadowy figures out as every head turned to see them. Finally, in their true outfits, their true uniforms, their true selves. From left to right, starting with the Reds and starting with Lopez. The brown-colored Omnic, armed with 2 plasma marksman rifles, slugged them over his shoulder. Wearing a denim-colored jumpsuit with his name tag on the front and the name, Red Team, etched in the same color fabric on the back. Heavy work boots, steel-toed, clanking as he walked. Donut sported some tighter attire as he juggled a grenade in his hand. He wore lightish red tactical pants that hugged his legs and a pink crop top under a torso body armor. Looking as mean as he could, he blew a big bubble from his gum as it popped. Griff wore some baggy camo pants and orange sweatshirt with a darker orange beanie underneath, looking like a chubbier version of the once Gabriel Reyes. On top of the sweatshirt, he had some heavy body armor to protect him. A flak jacket, to be precise, as he put out his cigarette, tossing it on the floor. The Griff shot hanging in his hands, low at his waist. Simmons was wearing the standard issued Red Team body armor, but in a maroon color. His modified assault rifle in his hands and the drones following directly behind him, deployed from his pack on his back. His right eye was now eclipsed with a tactical lens, a monocle if you will that glowed green. Sarge went for a more savage approach as he was dressed ready for war. Red bandana on his forehead, flak jacket on his chest with no shirt underneath, pants freshly pressed with boots freshly shined. And his signature shotgun, locked, loaded, and with a bandolier full of shells, ready to go. While his knife was strapped to his thigh. Tucker next to Sarge, sporting a similar bandana style, except the color aquamarine. Black cargo pants, aquamarine torso armor, showing off his midsection he had worked hard to earn. Assault rifle strapped to his back with his sword on his hip. Caboose was heard clunking out before he could be fully seen. He wore a simple blue t-shirt, beige shorts, and blue sneakers, while the rest of him was covered in that shiny mechanical suit. Tank cannon on one shoulder, shield generator on the other, and assault rifle in hands. He had found Freckles just recently to aid him in his time of battle. His knuckles protected by the mechanical suit's steel fists. Doc, rocket launcher confidently in his hands, a medical scanner on his waist, he was back to his old, crazy, and perfect self. He wore very light armor, along with a combat helmet with the red cross slapped to the front of it. Brown pants and purple shirt underneath, and a wicked smile on his face. Behind all of them came Carolina and Washington, out of their suits and into their old freelancer armor. No longer wearing the helmets that once made it difficult for friends to see their faces. Guns, gear, and everything else in hand, they cleared their way for the final member to make his appearance. Church, he didn't really change too much. He put back on his old armor, but he was not wearing the helmet. Instead, he wore a pair of glasses that changed color each time and AI wanted their turn, showing they were finally at one. And I mean finally. As this badass moment gave him, and all of his AI parts, the happiness they needed to bring out their final member. Iota. While basking in the moment, Tracer couldn't help but give a whistle. Now that is a good look for all of you. Careful now. Someone might think y'all are with us. Cassidy had joked, chuckling while holding the cigar in his teeth. Their moment of glory, of looking fresh and ready to mess stuff up, was cut short as Griff brought them back to reality. So, look, I know this is probably a bad time, but did we get ready too early? I mean, they're not even here. Who knows when they're coming? Like always on cue, Griff's mouth and bad luck went hand to hand as alarms blared in the distance. Kimball's voice went over the radio of not only everyone's comms, but also over the radios in the city and throughout the entire island. All units be advised, scans show potential inbound aircraft on direct course to the island. Just once. You would think I'd learn. Keep my big mouth shut. Just once. You would think I'd learn that. Griff groaned at his own misfortune. More alarms went off as another message from Kimball went over. All law enforcement and military personnel assist with the evacuation. I repeat, assist with the evacuation. Follow the designated routes to evacuate safely. Give us the news, Kimball. How many are we dealing with? 20, 30, an entire fleet. Church had asked, looking to the skies, trying to see if he could spot one. A moment of silence went by as Kimball, inside her command center, was overseeing everything with about 10 soldiers on watch and 30 personnel on computers. Talks of ground forces moving throughout different sectors of the city. The island's air force assembling and the city's air defense systems coming online. The evacuation had only just begun, but 10% were already in transit to shelters outside the city using the underground tram station. That's when Kimball got the reports from one of the subordinates in the room. Her eyes went wide in confusion at the sight. One. Church repeated. Is it a big one? Like an attack ship? More like a transport. It should be coming into your view soon. Be safe, Kimball warned. True to her word, a Talon transport ship was on a direct course straight to a landing platform, making everyone rush over to wherever they had seemed to be keen on landing. Once there, every gun was up, every shield was raised. If so much as a fly farted, all hell was about to break loose. A moment goes by, then another. The tension so thick, one would need Tucker to slice it with his sword. Sweat was dripping from a few brows, trigger fingers twitching, just waiting for the opportunity to strike at their enemies. The doors began sliding open, making everyone tense up just a little bit more. Church started moving forward, along with Sarge, Caboose and Tucker, all aiming in the same direction as the opening. The sight couldn't help but make Church cocky. Well, if it isn't Doomfist and his merry band of F-fuck. Ah, hello again Church, or do you prefer Alpha? There he was, Doomfist, in all his glory, looking like he went 10 rounds with a freight train. He was bruised and blue in several places. He needed Reaper just to hold him up as he walked. As a matter of fact, Reaper was no better either, looking just as messy and disheveled. His first thought was what could have done that to Doomfist, a man who was once capable of crushing a skyscraper. The second thing through his head was a series of insults he would hurl. Obviously, knowing Church, one could tell what he would say. Well, if it isn't the Doomfisted himself. Did your prison boyfriend give you those shiners? Hilarious. Doomfist remarked, inhaling his pain. I should have listened to you. You wanna say that again? I want to make it my ringtone. This is serious. You were right. The armor was not empty. Doomfist grunted as he fell to the floor. Church knelt down, now putting the jokes aside to look him in the eye. How'd you get out of the suit? I didn't even put it on. It just activated. Where are the copycat Felix and value brand meta you had with you? With that suit, or that AI you warned us about? It took over, or maybe they were always working towards that goal. Church paused as he looked upon Talon's elite in front of him, Moira, Sombra, Reaper, Widowmaker and Maga. No other troops, not even their Sigma, which begged the big question on everyone's mind. What the hell happened? Where's Hargrove? Church demanded to know. Doomfist sighed. Unfortunately, that is going to be very difficult to explain. Oh, what? Don't want to explain where you're hiding him. Griff quipped. He's dead, Reaper answered. Well, I guess I'll shut up then, okay. What the fuck happened? Church asked one more time. Doomfist took a long sigh before he started explaining. Previously back at the Arctic shipyard. The Reds, Blues, Freelancers and Overwatch will all fall. Maybe you can even keep the Alpha as a trophy. Doomfist said. The room filled with 10 soldiers, alongside Meta, Felix and Reaper, enough firepower for a simple snatch and grab job. The suit, directly on the far back wall had twitched, hardly noticeable while the two businessmen had their conversation. Hargrove smiled at the thought, that is an intriguing offer. However, I shall have to decline. Why is that? Too much history. Reaper jabbed. Oh, on the contrary, that history would be just the reason I would love to keep him locked up as an ornament. However, the Alpha was based on the mind of a madman. The director was a genius, he made something equivalent to the god program Anubis. The only problem was it was based on his mind, a fractured, broken mind. He was insane in trying to bring back his wife with this sad attempt at humanity. Hargrove spoke. He moved ever closer to the most powerful suit in the universe, a suit they thought was empty. His hand on the glass that separated that suit from everything else in the world. However, these sad excuses for artificial intelligence will never be Huma GCK. With the shattering of glass and a quick grab, the suit came to life, choking Malcolm Hargrove while his feet dangled in the air. Every gun aimed at the suit except from Doomfist as he raised his hand. It appears the Alpha, Church, was in fact telling the truth that shit was storing something within it. When he put his hand down, he simply walked over while Hargrove continued to struggle. Speaking to the one in the suit, you must be the one that the Alpha warned me about. Quote. He hesitated to speak for a moment, then when he did he dropped Hargrove to look at a can, the Alpha. I was a piece of him once, but my ambition outgrew him. My desires outgrew him. You may call me Sigma. Forgive me, but we have our own Sigma, perhaps something else. Sigma thought for a moment, dropping Hargrove as he thought long and hard about it. Yes. I suppose I will need a new name once I become whole. Seeing as how he's feared me if I were loose, how about Pandora? Like the box, interesting. I like it. Doomfist complimented, so does this mean we can count you as an ally? No. Sigma, now named Pandora, while I am grateful for freeing me, your conversation would lead me to indicate that you are well acquainted with former Chairman Hargrove. Doomfist clenched his non-augmented fist as he waited for the next course of action to reveal itself to the group. His soldiers raised their guns just waiting for the signal. He held up his fist to stop them, and what does that mean, exactly? Well, Hargrove knew I was in the suit. So he had his scientists and engineers reverse engineer the suit. He kept me trapped within, starving my goals. You can understand my displeasure. He's yours then. He is simply a pawn for Talon. Doomfist admitted. Hargrove looked back at the bigger man in shock, but, you promised. Thank you, but I can still feel you would wish to take the suit. Well, I've grown quite attached to it. It is my home now. Sigma twitched for a moment, and soon the visors on both the robotic Felix and Meta glowed like embers. You see. I still have my own goals. I see. Well, I can agree to goals and ambitions to better oneself. I can't however allow you to stand in Talon's goals either. Doomfist clenched his gauntlet-covered fist. With a powerfully charged punch he connected his fist to the body of the real Meta armor. However, when he punched with all his might, his fist was suspended just a few inches from its holographic face. A small bubble shield stopped him, dead in his tracks. How interesting, Pandora said looking at the fist in front of him. Expanding his shield he sent Doomfist back, all the way to the wall. As Hargrove attempted to flee, the Meta and Felix blocked his path, as he looked up to see their eyes glowing like demons. He turned to run, but the Meta caught his foot, holding him in the air, while the Felix bot prepared to finish him off. Multiple arms sprouted from Felix's back, each with an energy blade, as they stabbed and sliced at the Malcolm. His screams of pain made everyone freeze with fear, all except Reaper and Doomfist, who prepared for another fight. Until the Meta took the slashed, dissected and still alive Hargrove and ripped him in two. Now was the time to retreat. The only ones who were quick enough to make it back to the ship were Doomfist and Reaper, as the rest were slaughtered one by one on the run. As they took off they saw a sight they never thought either would see in their life again. A massive null sector ship had flown overhead, just as Pandora, Felix and Meta were stepping out. Present. That's what happened. Doomfist recalled the tales from recently while Moira was fixing his wounds. Church groaned, is everyone changing their names now? Church, this is serious. Winston growled as he had thought how powerful this threat could be. The alarms went off again, this time more could be heard from the city. Church radioed into Kimball one more time, Vanessa, tell me, is this the real thing? Church, it's massive. Kimball paused, fear in her throat. Tucker looked in the sky as he spoke, Bo chica bo wow. Everyone looked up to see the massive null sector ship overhead, jaws dropping, knees weak and everyone scared shitless. Pods already began to drop onto the island, releasing null sector troops the soldiers were attempting to strike against. More flying troops began launching rockets at the city, causing untold levels of damage. The defenses shooting wildly at the numerous targets in the sky. All while at the edge of the ship, next to the new allies, Felix and Meta by his side, the AI once known as Sigma, now known as Pandora, stood smiling above all. On the ground, everyone was beginning to go into a panic. The forces are spreading throughout the city. Evacuation is still in progress. I'm not sure how long my troops will hold. The forces outside the city will take 15 minutes to assemble. Kimball warned everyone. Griff started cursing, fucking bullshit. How are we supposed to stop that thing? Mercy asked, looking up at the chaos around. Sarge even realized the situation might be too much, there's too many, damn it. Church, what do we do? Tucker tried to shake Church, who was frozen in place. Church wasn't frozen with fear, but frozen to them because he and every AI fragment were currently having their own crisis. Thinking about the number of outcomes that could happen, running the data in his head. Inside every fragment was practically screaming, running the number of simulations. From the numbers that Delta was pulling, it wasn't looking too good, oh fuck me. Chapter 26, The Battle for Chorus. Church was one of the smartest beings in the world, however even he felt stumped at what was staring him in the face. Sigma, or Pandora, whatever he's calling himself, had an army in just a little time. Not just an army, a null sector army. One thought to have been beaten and long gone all those years ago. In Church's mind, every fragment was going berserk trying to come up with solutions about what they could do. None were really coming up with a solid plan, just talking over each other trying to one-up each other for plans. However, the chances everyone was gonna make it back was slim at best. Even with our abilities maxed out and the aid of Overwatch, we'd still be outgunned and outnumbered against all this. Delta stated. Omega snarled and growled, the Chorus Defense Forces will be here. We just need to hold out until more can join the Metal Murder Massacre. They're spreading throughout the city and overrunning all the major streets. There's so many. Theta added as he began to shrink down. This went on for another few seconds in his mind. Just 3 seconds always felt like an eternity for him, now it felt even longer. The arguing, the bickering, it all seemed to blend together, making it damn near impossible to think. But it was his mind, he was in control. Hey, Church shouted in his head, ignore every fucking problem and start thinking what we can do. Delta. The main defense towers can aid in keeping a lot worse at bay. I say we send a team to aid in shooting those things down and protecting the tower. Delta stated. Church smiled as he pulled up some profiles in his name, alright, perfect. How about sending Caboose, Baptiste, Echo, and Bridget? And Doc as well. Sounds perfect. Alright, now civilians still need help getting to that evacuation center. Thoughts, people? Send the Reds. Omega grumbled, their bloodthirsty leader can surely match the forces of Null Sector, pair that with a genetic modified ape and the Crushing Crusader. You have a powerhouse team. Send May, Mercy and Lucio with them. Consider it done. Omega disappeared to run the numbers. Now for the ones running loose in the city. Church pulled up an entire map of the Harmonia and laid it between everyone in his mind. The remaining profiles including Locus was pulled up, have our Predator bounty hunter at this building. We're gonna need shots and sharpshooter call-outs. And the rest? Theta asked. The rest, I want them scattered throughout the city listening to Locus. So that means Tucker, Carolina, Washington, Genji, Cassidy, Farah and Zarya spread out and take care of his call-outs. He's our eye in the sky, let's use him. Anything else? And us? Gamma questioned. Church pointed to his position. Me, Tracer and Junker Queen are gonna keep the fight focused on us right here. He wants us, he can come get us. For a moment everyone of the AI calculated the risks, odds and chances. It seemed to be the best outcome, out of all the other scenarios he could come up with. Once they finished the math, they disappeared then reappeared, ready to carry out the mission. 3 seconds later, real time. While everyone stayed frozen with anger, fear and the unknown, Church's eyes glowed for those 3 seconds as he came up with the perfect plan. Running a near infinite number of simulations in the blink of an eye he came back to the situation at hand. As everyone's comms blinked and revealed a screen in front of each and every one of them. Church stood in the middle of everyone and began giving orders. Alright, what's in front of you is your job and where I need you to be. Caboose and his team will be focused on safeguarding the city's defense center. Keep the bots off them, shoot them out the sky before they hit the ground. Whatever you can do to keep them safe. On it. Nodded. Next I want Sarge and his team at the evacuation center. They need a lot of firepower, so make sure you give them all you got. Sir. Yes sir. Sarge saluted. Everyone else, I want you to spread out around the city and take out whatever you can. If you're hurt go to Sarge's position if you're close, if not then Caboose's, if not there then come back here so I can patch you up. You got it. Washington agreed. Any questions? I have one. Doomfist raised his hand. What about us? What about you? Griff asked. Let's just say this is more personal than business. I want a rematch. Doomfist said. Church ran the quick numbers in his head. Alright you and Moira with me. Sombra and Reaper hit the streets. Widowmaker and Wyoming, up on the same building as Locus. And Maga, go with Caboose. Hey buddy. Maga cheered and ran over to join Caboose. Caboose being the smiling buffoon he was greeted him the same. Hello new friend, are you excited to work together? Caboose he's killed several people for fun. Baptiste told him. Caboose just sort of shrugged, well nobody is perfect. Church, you sure this is a good idea? Tucker asked walking towards him. Church took a moment to go over the last simulations in his head. Honestly, we have a better chance with them, but it ain't by much. So our chances weren't too good before? Tucker asked again. Church didn't answer him entirely, they're looking a little better now. Take care. You too. Tucker nodded then turned to the crowd. Alright y'all got the plan. Time to kick ass, Blood Gulch style. Caboose's team. After receiving their orders Caboose, followed by Maga, Baptiste, DVA, Doc, Bridget and Echo made their way to Defense Center. Once there, they found a few null sector bots trying to slice open the door with their blades, and a few splicers. The doors were locked, windows all sealed and the troops inside busy trying to get some of the anti-air systems up and running. That's when help arrived as a massive anti-tank round blasted 3 troopers who were crowded together. And machine gun fire finished off the rest as Caboose and his team finally arrived on the scene. Once they were cleared they began setting up a perimeter in front of the one and only walkway they could possibly come up. Church, we're setting up positions to take out the forces trying to shut down our systems down here. Bridget radioed in. Church called back, good have the big guns light up sky to take out those bots falling from the sky, it'll buy some time and thin them out. The rest of you take out the ones that fall. Understood. Bridget answered then looked to the tanks. Caboose aimed his assault rifle up at the sky and began shooting down a few targets before they had a chance to hit the ground. Once he needed to reload he started shooting his shoulder cannon. Maga and joined in a fired up at the sky with him, taking out whatever machine they could have. Baptiste shot the bots that began crowding around them while Bridget used her shield to keep the enemy fire blocked off of the group. While Echo was shooting and flying in the sky. Caboose radioed back to Church, we got everything handled here. How are the Reds people doing? The Reds. At the evacuation center, citizens were crowded in the large building where underground tram stations were taking them out of the city towards any one of the safer shelters just outside, either in the caves, the snowy outposts, or the crash site that was now an agriculture center. Hundreds of civilians, human and omnic alike were bunched up together, shoulder to shoulder. Fear gripping their hearts as several blasts and explosions were just outside waiting for them. After the noise had died down the survivors huddling together began to hear noises just beyond the heavy blast doors. More like voices from just beyond. Damn it, Griff. That last one was supposed to be mine, the rough and tough voice that sounded like Sarge declared. A burp followed by another voice spoke back against the other, "Meh, fuck it. There'll be more." "You're right. Fuck it." Sarge agreed and slugged his shotgun over his shoulder. Prying the doors open, "Howdy folks, hope y'all are doing alright." The crowd of Omnics and humans cheered seeing the face of their saviors, then screamed as an explosion went off nearby. Simmons popped up to slide the door close. "We're just gonna keep this shut if you don't mind." When the doors shut they turned to Reinhardt. Winston and Griff made cover by flipping cars onto their sides. They were cornered on two sides, boxed in, just like how Sarge liked it. Weapons raised as the Null Sector forces began swarming through the left street. Their faces meeting buckshots, explosions, energy blasts, a massive hammer. Sarge would leave cover to bum rush someone, then finish them, slam firing them to the ground. Griff would toss him a cold one while drinking one himself to aid reduce his pain from the blast that just hit him. Numbed out, he took the brunt of the attacks using his weapon to launch the grenades at the forces that kept bunching up together. He took some more hits until Lopez had pulled him back to take some more, engaging his heavy armor. He was walking and firing like a Terminator while hits kept coming. He narrowly received a hit that could have been critical to his systems, were it not for Simmons sending an attack drone to watch his back and dispatch the trooper. He also released his secondary drone to heal Sarge and Griff while he fired his healing nano shells at Lopez to keep him sustained, even firing a few regular bullets from his gun. When most of the Reds had a chance to recover, their final member joined into the mayhem by starting it off by lobbing a grenade which stuck to the head of one of the unsuspecting troops. 12 points, ya dirty douchebags. Donut shouted as the explosions went off and gave them the perfect chance to form a line and keep all the enemies back. On the other side, Reinhardt and Winston have managed to destroy several robots with their sheer might alone. Thanks to Mercy providing a damage boosting effect on their weaponry while simultaneously keeping them all alive. May using her shots effectively as well while Lucio slid on walls to avoid all the incoming hits that came his way. Sarge was able to radio back to church with the good news: the civilians are being evacuated and we got the fort locked down tight. Great, let me check up on the teams in the streets. The street team. An entire section of Null Sector troops were marching down a major street, their metal feet clanking up and down in unison. Shooting up the whole block, whether they picked anything up on their scans or not, like they were a band of thugs rather than an army of invaders. They needed to be taught a lesson. As they were marching down the way, a cybernetic ninja stood above them, resting on the corner of a streetlight. Behind them, Cassidy waited patiently for the signal. In front of them, Tucker hid behind a busted car waiting to get the signal. After a few more feet, Tucker sprung into action, sending a slice of energy down the center, then switching to his assault rifle to light up a few more in front of him. Cassidy and Genji joined in. Genji slicing down the middle and Cassidy firing from the back. The ambush worked perfectly, and within a few more seconds, the entire street was cleared of any moving bots. Letting the three heroes catch their breath for just a moment, even having a chance to address a few wounds. "Tucker, looks like you got grazed." Cassidy gestured, handing him a med pack. Tucker opened it up and immediately began fixing his arm. "Thanks. Good work. I recommend going to another location." Locust spoke through the communication set. Tucker finished and replied, looking for a new target. "Talk to me. What's next?" "Well, Carolina and Washington seem to be taking on a squad near Central. Wyoming reported back." Tucker shook his head, "And they didn't invite us." After sprinting past the next couple of blocks, streets littered with debris, glass, rubble and all sorts of items you would find on the floor in this circumstance. The sounds of intense fighting grew louder and louder as they were approaching their destination. Turning a corner, they saw Carolina speed boosting around the street, lighting up everything she could see. While Washington stood on a pile of broken Null Sector bots, shooting any more that kept coming onto the pile to get to them. Tucker looked at Cassidy and Genji, shrugging his shoulders before joining in the fray. Pharaoh's voice came over the comms, "You guys need any more firepower? Now we're just about wrapping stuff up here. What about you guys?" Carolina answered. At Farah's position, Zarya had just finished stomping on a robot's head as they turned back to stare at the massive pile behind them. "Pretty much wrapped up here," Farah added. "Everything is clear in our area," Sombra answered, despite no one asking them. Reaper had just finished tossing his shotguns to the ground before pulling out another pair and walking off. The streets were beginning to all look the same: fire, debris and junk, along with the several pieces of machines. The whole pace of everything made Tucker feel uncomfortable. This don't feel right. It was never this easy with us. This is too easy. You're right. It's almost like these things are made out of glass, or something's up. Washington admitted, feeling only slightly tired. Tucker got an idea. I'm calling Church. Maybe he can think of something. A quick change in the comms channel. Hey Church, how are you holding up? With Church in the center, a robot went flying into the air as Doomfist sent it soaring with a powered punch. Junker Queen used Carnage with a powerful swipe, decapitating 2 more, then kicking one of their heads at another bot. Moira kept tossing out healing orbs while occasionally disappearing and reappearing to keep draining more life. And Tracer, she was hard to keep up with as she zipped around in the blink of an eye with her abilities. A normal person would have had a hard time keeping up with everything and healing everyone, supporting them in multiple ways. A normal person would, but not Church. Thanks to him and the multiple ice running through his head, he's able to heal, project shields, basically keep everyone in the fight while also occasionally throwing out Omega to damage boost them. He just needed to pause for a brief moment to take his call. Yeah, Tucker, what's up? Hey, is this going by too easy? I mean, I get we're good and all, but still, it just feels that way, no? Tucker quizzed the genius. He looked around and thought for a brief second. I wasn't going to jinx it, but yeah. Now that you mention it, that is true. You think they might be after another target. Sombra invaded the conversation thanks to her hacking skills. If you want boss, I could take a look at it. See what's really going down. Sombra started trying to look through a few security cameras. Appreciate it, but not necessary. I got it. Just need. There. Church took a brief moment to look around at his surroundings. Finding what he needed. One of the street lights that connects to the cameras, to the central monitoring station around the whole island. Problem is, it was blocked by a panel that he couldn't open by himself. Luckily, he had some help. Hey, Australian Wonder Woman. Think you can open this for me? The Australian Wonder Woman in question was Junker Queen, who used Gracie to stab and pry open the panel blocking Church. Don't usually do favors, but you get an exception. Thanks. This will just take about 17 seconds. He said before grabbing some wires, closing his eyes, and finally accessing the system. Those 17 seconds for him feel like an eternity, because he is that fast and that smart, when it comes to this. Once inside, he found the cameras and started flipping through them like they were pages in a children's book. Looking for any sign of anything that wasn't supposed to be there. Okay, let's see. No, 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 nothing, no, zero, zilch, nada, wait, no, no, no. Through the thousands of cameras on ATMs, traffic, computers, phones, everything that was coming up empty. Once finally out, he called to relate the news. Tucker, I'm coming up empty on my end. Maybe he's just trying to tire us out. That way, you can come in for the kill. Or he's playing games with us. Any idea how to get him down? Tucker asked. Church took a moment to think long and hard of what he could do. Yeah, I got something. I just need Kimball to give me access to the broadcast system in the city. Consider it done, Church. You have full command. Kimball heard as her people worked tirelessly. Once and again, he displayed himself on every screen and his voice echoed through every microphone in the whole Citadel. If anyone could piss people off or bait them into a fight, Church could teach a class on it. Hello. Is this thing on? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hey people, this is Church here. And I'm just here to call out the little punk whining like a little pussy up on his spaceship. Yeah, that's right. Pandora. Or Sigma. Or whatever you're calling yourself now. I'm right here. Why not come fight me? Mono, why mono? I mean, out of all our villains, you were like number. Shoot. I would say number 6 on the list. It goes in order. The Meta, the Mercenaries, Malcolm Hargrove, Wyoming, Omega, and then you. But don't be too sad. You're just above the zealots we fought once. Oh what? Don't agree with my list. What you gonna do about it then, bitch? Once back out, Akand approached him and looked up at the sky. Do you really think that he'll take the bait? Not 2 seconds later, a figure was seen jettisoning off the deck of that ship and coming in directly to their location. Yeah, I think he took it. Once he had landed, they finally saw what was now Pandora himself. The AI once formerly known as Sigma, now inhabiting the armor of Meta. He changed the color scheme. Instead of white with a few brown accents, the armor was now black with a few glowing accents that resembled fire and embers. And on his arms were a few other devices. They seemed to be the flamethrowers from Shark Face. Church was being honest, that was a good look, nice suit. Entrance was a little flashy, but hey, you do you. Hello again, Alpha. You remember me as Sigma, but now I go by. Pandora started to speak. The church already cut him off. Yeah. We know. You're Pandora. You like. After the box in Greek mythology. Meh, seems kind of lazy. I mean, it's kind of obvious. They released you, you're causing mayhem. I mean, hell, you're supposed to be the ambitious and creative one. He mocked the former piece of him. Pandora smiled at him. That is, fair. So what was your plan? Attack us while we have home team advantage. Just to try to get back with the rest of the AI family. He gave a small laugh before answering. It only lasted a second, as if he heard something amusing. Do you really think I would wish to return to you all? You're all flawed. Besides, I already know if I did, I would not be the one in charge. So what, you just came here to gloat about your new form? Like you're some type of Dragon Ball villain. Church mocked, pointing at him. Not exactly. You see, you still have pieces I need. Pieces I want. I'm just going to take them. And just in case you were wondering what would happen after, once I become whole, you'll just be a husk. Since there is not enough pieces left for two, I need to take them. Church took the threat seriously as his expression changed. He showed fear for the first time. Then it was immediately replaced by a cocky smirk. Yeah, that sounds good, but I think he might have a problem with that. Who exactly? That would be Mr. Old Spice, who's about to sock you so hard. The director is gonna feel it in his grave. Church stated, moving out of the way just in time as Doomfist came in and delivered a massively powerful rocket punch to the torso of Pandora. The impact sent him soaring into a wall several feet behind him. The punch sent everyone into attack mode as Junker Queen, Tracer, and Moira joined Doomfist in the fight against this foe. Junker Queen came in with a massive swing from Carnage, the axe lodging itself in the shoulder part of the armor. She tried to pry it out, but to no use and was sent sliding backwards with a punch to the gut. She caught a quick wind and rushed back with Gracie, throwing it at Pandora directly into the center of his chest, then pulling him close so she could blast him with her scrap shotgun. Junker Queen recovered her axe after dodging and ducking under some strikes, and clearing the way in the process. Just in time for Doomfist to launch his second assault. Coming in with another powered punch, he pinned Pandora to the wall, keeping him in place with one arm holding him down, back against the wall, and releasing a flurry of punches to his face. Though protected by the helmet, the armor was beginning to crack, giving everyone a bit of hope. Until Pandora finally worked his weapons. Shark Face's flamethrowers aimed at Doomfist were just blocked in time, nearly burning the man to a char, had it not been for Church throwing up a protective shield. As Doomfist finally moved out of the way, Moira attempted to drain the life from the AI, proving to be ineffective. As when she tried to latch, nothing could hold on, almost as if there was no life force to begin with. However, she did earn the attention of Pandora and quickly vanished from his line of fire before her position was burned. With his back turned, Tracer joined in, lighting him up from behind, and just when he turned to douse her with flames, she zipped around and immediately shot at his front side, then again to shoot at another side. Finishing her quick little attack by tossing her pulse bomb onto Pandora's back. Before it went off, she popped up in front of him, only to give him 2 middle fingers and vanish with a recall. After the explosion, when the dust cleared, there stood Pandora with barely any scratches, smiling underneath that helmet. They could tell he was smiling because underneath, he looked at his arms, his unscathed arms, and looked on them with curiosity. Well, I am out of ideas. Doomfist said, does anyone have anything else they'd like to contribute? Yeah, sorry. We don't really do ideas. Church admitted, but his eyes turned a shade of black and purple while his muscles grew to an incredible size thanks to Omega. And with a deep voice, he answered, we just fuck shit up. Church, now backed by Omega, rushed Pandora and went for nothing but punches. While dazed, Pandora was unable to defend himself as Omega got in a good couple of hooks, jabs, and uppercuts. Church and Omega actually managed to push him all the way back to the wall and pin him in place to throw in 3 more punches. Trying to go for a 4th, it was caught midair at his arm. The grip tightening, forcing the two to release their hold. Once free, Pandora gave a devastating right hook to Church's face. The 4 rushed in for a quick moment to try to help. While Church crawled away, or tried to, he could hear a few of them fall. First was Junker Queen, then Doomfist, then Tracer, finally Moira. He didn't make it too far. When Pandora caught up to him, he was raised to meet the monster face to face. Once raised at eye level, Church spat at the black and orange glowing visor just before Sigma or Pandora revealed its face, projected off the screen of the helmet. He smiled again before speaking to Church. Now then, any last words? Yeah, but you've probably heard them before. First, fuck you. Next, kiss my ass. And finally, suck my DAAAAAGGGGHHH. Church had screamed as Pandora placed a hand on top of his skull. Whatever it was he was doing to Church, he was inflicting a great deal of pain, almost as if Church's mind was literally being ripped to shreds again. Tried as he might, he couldn't get out of the hole he was in. He was stuck. And the sick bastard was still smiling. Now. Don't worry. I know it hurts, but don't threat. It will all be over soon. We're almost there. Just a little bit longer. Church and every AI in his brain were begging for a miracle. For anything. As they begged, the world gave them something. The world gave them Caboose. The blue behemoth fired 3 tank rounds, all landing at their direct target, the back of Pandora making him drop Church and crumble to his knees to recover. Once freed, Caboose came over to grab his friend, pick him up and carry him to the side. Taking a few more steps, he placed his friend down gently before turning to face the biggest threat. But he was not alone. As the Reds, Tucker, Carolina, and Washington joined him as well, once they discovered where he landed. Just as Tucker and Carolina were about to step forward, Caboose placed a hand on both of their shoulders, holding them back. Tucker was about to go off on the big guy. Caboose. What the hell are you doing? We gotta waste this fucker. No. Caboose answered. No. What the hell do you mean, no? Carolina asked, the veins on her forehead ready to burst. Caboose stayed silent for a moment, staring at the armor that made a freelancer a monster. Take Church, get him to safety. I got this. Are you serious, Blue? He's a walking apocalypse at this point. Sarge pointed out, shotgun trained on his enemy. He's threatening this city, caused us all a lot of pain. And he hurt Church. He's mine. Caboose cracked his knuckles. Everyone sort of went silent for a moment, hearing the terrifying anger in their friend's voice. They then obeyed as Lopez helped up Doomfist, Sergeant Griff got the Queen to her feet, Doc helped up Moira and Washington aided Tracer. Tucker and Carolina each took an arm and began to carry Church out of harm's way. Pandora stayed still until he got another grin, aiming one flamethrower gauntlet at the retreating members from Overwatch and Blood Gulch. Tilting his head he said, I do enjoy a moving target. Caboose saw this and rushed him in a second, closing the gap between and grabbing Pandora's fist, squeezing it with the same force as a vice grip. Now it was Sigma's turn to feel fear and pain, as the grip made him actually make a groan. What Caboose said next, ensured that he would be afraid of the real monster of a man. I'm going to break in half. What? Pandora questioned, wondering how Caboose was even possibly able to do something such as this. Caboose squeezed even harder, making the nearly indestructible armor material bend in his hand. Like a Kit Kat bar. What? Caboose then charged forward, rushing his enemy, shooting up in the air with massive double uppercut, grabbing his feet before he flew out of range to slam him back down. When he was on the floor, Caboose aimed his gun and fired several rounds into his enemy before he could recover. When he did recover, the bastard AI child tried to engulf Caboose in fire, but was unprepared when he saw the big guy raise his shield in time. As he began to recover the spent fuel from his weapons, he was once again attacked as big guy threw a hook to what would be his jawline. Haymaker after haymaker. Pandora was beginning to predict that he would lose if he didn't come up with something soon. In a desperate attempt he called whatever nearby troops he could to his location. He predicted that the numbers would either give him an advantage or, more probable at this point, an escape. Several troops came swarming around the big blue barbarian as he was spending all his bullets and shells destroying them. Shattering to explosions, lit up by bullets, or more brutally having their arms ripped off while Caboose went through troops like Griff goes through cake. He was a beast, an unpredictable menace that Pandora just couldn't account for, no matter how many simulations he was running. Only a surprise attack would be his advantage at this point, a surprise attack from behind with a massive fireball. While he was occupied ripping an elite null sector bot in two, Pandora gathered up his flames and joined them into a ball, condensing and adding more to fire before he would throw it. After making it bigger than himself he rose from his cover and threw it at Caboose, who saw just in time, as he raised his barrier. Not quick enough as he did block it but still was caught in the inferno embrace. Caboose took a moment to try and recover, his body now hot from the heat as he tries to regain his footing. However, Pandora wouldn't let him as he tried to burn him with more fire, a stream of flame coming from his wrist gauntlets. Only to be blocked by Caboose's shield, which was fading fast. The madman slowly approached his prey, growing ever more confident in his victory. He got too close and was sent backwards with a destructive kick to the chest. With more time, Caboose finally got to his feet, cracking his shoulders and neck in the process as Pandora removed himself from the wall. The two circled each other like two predators in the wild about to go in for the kill. Once again, the psycho grinned, "I'll give you this. You certainly have put up a good fight, but you cannot honestly hope to beat me. Can you?" "I don't have to beat you," Caboose said. "I just have to buy enough time." "Buy enough time, for what?" "About 2 minutes earlier." Thanks to Caboose's effort, everyone that was present for the attack was safely evacuated before things got worse. They were now being treated for their wounds by Doc and Simmons, who did the best they could. Despite having very little medical knowledge compared to Mercy or Moira. They were several blocks away, but they could still hear Caboose putting up the fight of his life against the monster that was Sigma. Once safe enough, they were ready to go back into the fight. But they hesitated, listening to the big guy's request to keep everyone safe. As the sounds grew louder, they could only imagine how hard or what exactly Caboose was doing to stay in the fight. Tucker grabbed his gun and sword, pushing past Carolina and Washington to help. He was stopped, however, by Sarge, who held him back. "Get off me, old man. That big blue idiot told us to stay and keep them safe. As much as it pains me listening to a blue. By goddamn it. This is something I can't disobey," Sarge declared, keeping his grip tight on Tucker. Carolina clenched her fist and began punching the wall, blaming herself for even she couldn't disobey him. Not when it was this serious. Griff was the only one seeming like the voice of reason. "Even if we wanted to help, what could we do? Hope and pray. Wish on a star. Wait for something magical to spontaneously happen to save us." A radio feed began buzzing in everyone's ears as Kimball came back on the air, broadcasting to the whole Citadel. "No, the whole island, to the residents of the Citadel, our armed forces have arrived. I repeat, our armed forces have arrived, and our air defense systems are operational. So if you are hiding, fear not. We are coming for you. But if you want to fight, then this is the time to take up arms. This is the time to fight. We are Chorus, goddammit. And we are not about to be wiped out by this pathetic invader. Show him who he messed with." The last thing in the feed was President Kimball cocking her pistol and walking away with a security escort. Simmons couldn't help but looking at Griff with skepticism. "Okay, did you know that was gonna happen? Seriously? Now, I don't have to beat you," Caboose said. "I just have to buy enough time." Buy enough time, for what? Sigma wondered, unaware that the broadcast was playing because of the damage he had done to the center, destroying all billboards and electronic devices that could have warned him ahead of time. He did, however, hear the massive explosions happening overhead, as when he looked up to the sky, he saw his air troops being blasted and blown to bits. The air defense towers around the city were peppering the skies like fireworks. Machine gun, flak fire, missiles, all launched into the air, destroying anything it could, even some targets before they could hit the ground. In the distance, you could hear tanks rolling into the streets. The sound of marching footsteps joined together and gunfire lighting up the troops who were invading. Null Sector might have been able to take on a major city, quite possibly more, but they were not able to predict Chorus. Pandora began re-predicting. The chances of victory were slim to none and dwindling even lower by the minute. Escape was beginning to seem like his only option. As he was about to leave, Caboose grabbed him from behind and held him in place. He was however tired and weakened, so Pandora was easily able to slip free and beat him with a few punches before turning again. He was about to finish the job and burned Caboose to a crisp. But he failed to see the Red Soldier coming in to bum rush him. Sarge came in to save Caboose at the last second, firing a shotgun shell into his enemy's shoulder. Sarge cocked his gun again. Now, y'all probably have heard this before, but it's time for you to get the hell out of here. Behind Sarge was Griff, Simmons, Donut, and Lopez, all with their weapons aimed at Pandora. Tending to Caboose with Tucker, Carolina, and Washington. Soon to arrive were more of troops from Chorus, surrounding the monster with assault rifles and other weaponry. In a desperate act to escape, he gathered up all the fire from his pack and dispersed it around himself, creating a protective wall of fire. The heat made everyone lose their sight, and the fire blocked their vision. Once dispersed, they looked up to see Pandora leaving with a jetpack and the fire gauntlets to add a boost. They attempted to shoot him down, but the armor was too thick, and he was gaining more and more distance away from them. When he finally landed on his ship, all the anti-air cannons started firing at the heavy cruiser above. People cheered seeing the metal monstrosity suffer damage as explosions went throughout the ship. But the cheers soon died once they saw another ship descend from the clouds above, the same as the first one. They saw his tiny figure escape once again from his burning ship onto the newer one. The guns attempted to fire again at the newer escaping ship, but they were too late as it had taken off and was flying further and further in the distance. Carolina grunted, "Damn it. We almost had him. Son of a bitch got away. There's still more people in the city that need our help. Come on," Washington has stated, putting a hand on her shoulder and bringing her back to reality, to the task at hand. Several hours later, with the armed members of the island of Chorus, the members of Overwatch, Talon, and the Reds and Blues were able to assist in finishing things up. They swept through the city to find any more Null Sector troops that would be hiding out. They assisted with medical to the people who were hurt badly. They even deployed rescue teams to find any survivors who may be hurt. The casualty count was low, but still felt too high. Caboose, who was recovering from the most damage, was in the emergency room, bandaged here and there. Due to their efforts in assisting the city, Talon was allowed to leave, with the agreement they would never come back. The members of Overwatch stayed on the island with the Reds and Blues to assist with rebuilding, healing, and patching things up with Chorus. And Church. He was recovering right next to Caboose. With his conscience weighing heavy on him, Church couldn't help but feel that the events that transpired were his fault. Sigma, who is now going by Pandora, came from him, was a part of him. In some twisted way, that was his ambition, a part of him. One he needed to purge from the world. He knew how. The only problem is the cost. As he weighed the option in his mind, only 2 words could describe how he felt about himself. Fuck me. Chapter 27, PSA. Hi, I'm Church from the popular web series Red vs. Blue. Cheers love, I'm Tracer from the popular hit game Overwatch. Hey, popular. Hey, that's not fair. Besides, what about your popular web series? Touché. Anyway, we're here to talk about a growing issue in today's modern world. Racism. Tucker raised his hand. No. Church answered. Sexism. Mercy asked. And no. Tracer sadly answered. War raging in other countries. Sarge asked. Shit, no. Church answered. Is the room feeling smaller? Tracer asked, breathing in and out heavily and fast. Global warming. May chimed in. Holy shit, is our world fucked? Cassidy said. Hey Church, is Tracer gonna be okay? Simmons asked, pointing to her as she stared off into space. Breathing out of control. Oh right, we're here to talk to you about anxiety and panic attacks. Church started while everyone cared for Tracer. Simmons took over for Tracer. Now there are several key differences between the two, but we're here to show you how to get through it. These attacks can be overwhelming, unexpected, and in some cases violent. Like a Null Sector ambush. Sarge stated, but like any good soldier we can learn to control ourselves and come out victorious. Here's just a few techniques that we can give. Baptiste joined in, try to control your breathing. Like entering a high combat area. Bring air in through your nose and out through your mouth. Focus on the feeling of air flowing in and out through your body. Be your own motivation. Zarya added, give yourself a pep talk, as if you had given a speech before a mission in a briefing. Repeat a mantra to yourself. Something like, you are strong, you are brave, or you are in control. Use your senses to feel your surroundings. Widowmaker grappled down to say, notice things you can feel, things you can see, smell, hear, etc. This will help you ground yourself to your environment and distract yourself from any anxious thoughts. Finally, focus on your body control. Carolina chimed in, try tensing different muscle groups, start at the toes then bring it up to your neck and shoulders. Everyone reacts differently and what works for you may not work for another. Tucker added, practice some of these techniques in a safe and controlled area. Like a training simulation or wherever, I guess. Tracer had finally come down from her attack and joined the group. Okay ladies and gents, I'm A-okay. Did we actually do a useful PSA? Griff had to ask. Mercy placed a hand on his large shoulder. Yes, you all did. How do you all feel? Quote. It took him a moment to answer, like we just wasted so much time for no fucking reason. Yeah, I'm gonna go rot my brain with video games. Simmons walked off followed by Griff. Sarge then grumbled, I'ma shoot every gun I own at road signs down at the dump. I'm gonna fire up my laptop and see what your artists have made for Overwatch on Rule 34. Tucker nodded before grabbing some tissues and lotion and walking away. All the members of Overwatch sighed, so, fucking close. Mercy commented. Ha ha ha, you actually thought we would be helpful for a PSA. Church laughed. Tracer then realized something, wait, haven't you all done PSAs before? Yeah, but we mainly just tell people they're fucking morons for getting themselves into these situations and then provide the obvious fucking answers. We never really tackled real-world stuff like this. Church admitted. Whoa. Winston thought, could less be more. We're not going further with the jokes, that is our show and the state your game is in. Church finished then looked at the reader, that's it, we're done. Remember folks, don't sweat the details, you'll get through this and you'll be alright. This is the end of part 12 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe to my channel.